J-Dog on the boards. We're looking at a Wednesday. We finally get a break in the heat. We get some clouds, maybe some sprinkles or showers here and there, but definitely cooler. You don't feel that heat and humidity the last few days. Got a lot going on this morning and a packed show for you as we get going. And a reminder, tomorrow we'll be doing the show live downtown Manchester, 1800 Elm Street, home of Alpine Gold, their grand opening. Great partner and sponsor. Will be there 9 to noon. And come on by. They're going to have an open house in the afternoon, cookout, and some fun stuff. So that's tomorrow morning. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of NH. Good morning over in the Seacoast, right up into Maine. We have extra FM coverage and signal strength for you there. We've added 98.7 FM HD2 if you like that digital clarity up in the Lakes region. Good morning, WEMJ, AM and FM. And, of course, 107.3 and 107.7 FM everywhere else. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Our poll question up on X this morning. At the Pulse of an H, we'll have our friends as we bring back the trades in the 10 o'clock hour from New Hampshire Technical Institute. Bringing back the trades in our community college system is booming. Our undergraduate four-year college part of University of New Hampshire is not. And the question on X this morning, our poll question, do you think community colleges, since that's where the growth is, should get a greater percentage of public funding than they are currently getting? Do you think community colleges get more funding? Yes or no? J-Dog will have the results for you from yesterday. Unless you have those already, Dog.
All set.
Okay, take it away.
Do you think vehicle inspection should go away in New Hampshire? 57.1% saying yes, 42.9% saying no.
All right, thank you, J-Dog. All right, coming up this morning, we're going to hear from our friends at Laval and Middleton Building Supply, get an update for veterans, Manchester VA, and the Navy SEALs coming to town. Swim with a mission. Phil Taub, founder of that, will break down the events for us live, top of the 10 o'clock. And a little bit later on today, we'll have our latest Contact Politics podcast, Brad Card, who will be with us this morning, and yours truly, our guest this week on our Pulse of NH, our podcast network. Contact Politics, Paul Steinhauser reports nationally for Fox News, covered many, many cycles of presidential elections. Get his take on what's coming as we go into the midterms and beyond. We got a lot going on. We'll tell you how you can donate, by the way. American Red Cross, we do a lot throughout the year here at Benny Media locally, and American Red Cross is I think, a very good nonprofit in times like this, and you can donate. We'll tell you how, but you can check it out, American Red Cross, to help support so much of the relief that's needed in Texas after these devastating, incredible, catastrophic floods. Interesting news. We're going to have more John Decker, our own White House correspondent, coming up live. And one of the stories, some trade deals with countries announced today and later today, and we'll have more on that as we get going. Also, how about this one? No Russia collusion. Oh, my goodness. No Russia collusion in 2016 when someone named Donald Trump first ran and won the White House. New CIA report reveals the whole thing. And now James Comey, former people in the Justice Department and CIA under investigation, colluding. The real collusion was with Hillary Clinton presidential campaign to make up the whole thing on the alleged Russia collusion off a bogus dossier, information that resulted in FISA warrants. James Comey, remember him? The Mueller special investigation probe. How much money and wasted taxpayer dollars was spent during that Robert Mueller special counsel probe? The whole thing was a setup. Frame Donald Trump, make it look like he colluded with Russia to win the election. I remember people like Gene Shaheen right here in New Hampshire about Russia collusion. They all bought it. Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign funded it, according to the CIA. And you wonder why yours truly brings up the fact that if you want to go back to JFK, you tell me Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, and I got some really nice oceanfront real estate property for you in Ohio. You look at how Jack Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy, was battling with J. Edgar Hoover and the CIA director when he came in. And whether it was to not reverse the investment in the war machine in Southeast Asia, Kennedy wanted to dial things back. Whether it was something else, you tell me. And then, of course, he battled J. Edgar Hoover. The head of the FBI was spying on Kennedy when he was sitting president of the United States. Kennedy would go to Vegas, visit Frank Sinatra in the hotel room. FBI was bugging the hotel room, bugging the president to get dirt on him. Unbelievable. People forget Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton battling Louis Freeh, director of the FBI at the time, over all the Monica Lewinsky stuff. So Trump comes in, doesn't trust the intelligence and FBI community in 2016 because he knew he was being set up. And now the CIA basically has a report to confirm it, the whole thing. So where's the follow-up, by the way? Where's the follow-up? Before the November 5th, this last election, remember all the swift federal charges and indictments and charges against Donald Trump, the presidential candidate, when he's running again, all-out effort to keep him in the courthouse and off the campaign trail, and he'd go to the rallies after appearing in New York City with that Manhattan DA, that witch hunt over his businesses, the stuff in Florida, all those cases against Trump. And finally, near the end of the Biden presidency, Hunter Biden finally gets charged, and then his father pardons him. And I used to bring up this question: why they're going after Trump? Hillary Clinton washed how many secret communications off her email server when she left the State Department, knowingly breaking how many federal laws? Could have been charged in a New York second, wasn't. Now we find out in 2016, going into that presidential election, the whole thing was meant to derail Trump's presidency after he won and beat Hillary Clinton. Her campaign, according to the CIA, funding this whole bogus conspiracy theory that resulted in a whole special investigation probe of Russia collusion. Where's the accountability? By the way, did you ever notice, how is it that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton just skate? They just skate by it all. Isn't it amazing? Wow. No charges on the email server. No charges now for 2 or 3 years of this country trying to basically sabotage and do in a sitting president. We've been debating the Kennedy assassination causes and theories for decades. This just happened, basically. Less than 10 years, in 2016, when Trump first ran, the whole Russia collusion thing was a setup. It was just a concocted, made up thing. And I said it at the time. The special counsel Mueller puts a team of forensic investigators on this. All he gets is some financial tax stuff on Michael Cohen and some other stuff, financial, no proof of Russia collusion. But no one ever goes back and says, okay, who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for this? How much money did that Robert Mueller special counsel probe cost the American taxpayers once Congress authorized it, based on this crap, this whole BS on the Russia collusion? How much money did that cost? Why is no one accountable? Why? So they actually have a criminal probe now. Mr. James Comey, the guy that did the little, 86, the number of the Trump presidency with the shells in the sand, that guy. Yeah, James Comey. Yeah. Talk about a political wannabe. What a buffoon he is. Oh, my goodness. This is going to be interesting. We'll see where it goes. All right, some commentary, 603-228-2080. As we get going this morning, some trade deals expected to be announced today, believe it or not. And a little bit later on, we're going to get an update from Rory O'Neill, NBC News Radio national correspondent, the latest out of Texas. It's still just continuing to be a very, very just beyond words kind of unbelievable, catastrophic tragedy in terms of loss of life with the river, the Guadalupe River, and those rains and the floods. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. We'll tell you how you can support the relief effort. American Red Cross, probably one of the best locally, nationally. We'll tell you about that and a lot more. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a few.
Hi, this is Mike Palm from the Morning
Hampshire, live from the Outdoor Pride Studios. Now back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Heat finally broken, cloudy, some showers out there. Definitely about 20 degrees cooler. Hey, before we bring in Michael Graham, I just want to share this is from Fox's. The short paragraph says it all. The whole Russia collusion joke, no Russia collusion, but the whole setup in 2016 to derail Donald Trump. According to reports, CIA report confirming it was secretly financed by Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign and Democrats, plural, encouraged by former president, the Obama camp, conceived by a foreign agent with a checkered past in espionage, the whole crap about making stuff up about Trump and Russia collusion, then brokered to basically collaborate with the FBI, CIA, the Department of Justice, and the biased national media to make them all in on Russia collusion. And no one will answer my question. How much did that special counsel probe of Robert Mueller's cost based on the dossier and then the FISA warrants? How much did that cost you and me? No one's accountable. No one's accountable. Unbelievable. Go get him, Hillary Clinton. What an incredible American. All right, Michael Graham, NH Journal, talking about New Hampshire's first in the nation presidential primary on the Democrat side and much more. Good morning, Michael.
You know, it's funny, former Congressman Dick Sweat, Democrat from New Hampshire, made a comment in that story about the First Nation primary that I think applies to what you're just talking about, which is the loss of trust. He says he doesn't think that the political parties understand just how much trust they've lost in the past few years because of some of the shenanigans, you know, like the Biden cover-up, et cetera. And I think the press is in the same position. I just don't think they get just how little people believe what they claim when they report. And one of the reasons is, we were saying at the time, regardless of what you think about Donald Trump, the idea that he's a Russian spy, you know, he's a Russian operative. Here's the deal, Jackie. If Donald Trump were a spy for Russia, you know who would be the first person to tell you? Donald Trump. he can't keep a secret. He's going to be bragging about it. And so it was always idiotic that there was some secret,
but you know what? It wasn't just, Democrat senators. I remember Senator Shaheen back then was talking about Russia collusion.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
where are they going to come out? They're going to come out now and say we were wrong. We should not have bought into that.
No one's going to say they were wrong. Just like the Democrats who decided to cover up for Joe Biden, particularly here in New Hampshire, will never say they were wrong. And yet, as we pointed out at NHJournal.com this morning, there's a lot of concern about the future of the First Nation primary, particularly among Democrats. Gavin Newsom, where is he? He's not in New Hampshire. He's in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Pete Buttigieg, where did he go? He didn't go to New Hampshire. He went to Iowa. Wes Moore, Tim Walz, the bigger names that are out, and it's early, but, the ones out testing the water, they're largely skipping New Hampshire. I mean, J.B. Pritzker came and spoke at the fundraising dinner, and he's, I think the last Emerson poll, he was like at 2% among Democrats as their pick for the nominee. The top names were Buttigieg, Harris, and Newsom, and they're not coming. And one of the concerns is that the New Hampshire primary is going to get dissed again. Mark Halperin, smart guy, as you know, longtime political reporter, he said during his program yesterday that if you're a betting person and you're going to pick the one state that's most likely to be in the first four, South Carolina is the top. And he predicted that New Hampshire was just going to have what he called a Potemkin primary, like a Potemkin village. That there'd be a thing. It wouldn't be sanctioned by the DNC. Some people would show up. The state would uphold its law, but it would be largely meaningless.
How about this one's really beautiful? In what's his name's book about the Biden cover-up and his cognitive decline, it was clearly stated that the whole plan by the Biden White House and the team would be to skip the early contest in Iowa and New Hampshire, play the race card that they weren't diverse enough. That's right. The diversity wasn't enough, and play up South Carolina. So they would use race when convenient. Where was the? I'm sorry, that wasn't a good idea then.
Oh no, you're absolutely right, and that was the plan. And of course, the real motive was to keep Biden from having to campaign in a place where people expected you to actually, do retail politics, talk to real voters, and he was not up to it. And so the smear that New Hampshire voters are racially suspect was just that. And yet that didn't stop Kathy Sullivan, the former head of the party, from saying, suck it up, Buttercup, stand by Joe Biden. They participated in the smear of their own voters. Senator Shaheen said, I'm with Joe Biden 100%. He doesn't need to come here and campaign. And now we're left with this damage. And that's the question. Here's my theory, Jack. The New Hampshire primary will stay strong, stay bulletproof, as long as we have the law, which isn't going to change, and the candidates show up. If the candidates show up because they think it's a place that can benefit their campaign, they can get good publicity, they can advance their cause, then it doesn't matter what the DNC does. The RNC is not a problem. The RNC is already in 100%. But if the candidates stop showing up, that's when you have a real problem.
All right, what else is catching your eye?
You agree with that? That's very accurate.
I do. I think it's what's interesting is you may have some Democrats avoiding bypassing New Hampshire, but a smart Democrat will say, you know what, if I run up there and do well, and so if the big names come here, it will make it relevant. The national media will have no choice but to cover it.
And then there's the other side, which is that helps New Hampshire primary, which is journalists are lazy. And as you know, Jack, because you worked with them, and they do not like, lifting a finger, and they know how to cover New Hampshire. They know who the contacts are. They know to interview you. They know to watch your show. They know to go to New Hampshire Journal. They know to Ray Buckley. They know,
but it's what's interesting about the national media. You mentioned credibility and how that whole bogus Russia collusion thing. The CIA is now on, basically said it's clear that this was quite a web that they tried to derail the Trump presidency. And the national media you mentioned earlier, it took a real credibility hit because of political activism. Look at George Stephanopoulos and ABC. And just the other night, they haven't gotten it. Just the other night, David Muir, ABC News, it was just a week ago, I was watching when the big, beautiful bill had gotten by the Senate before July 4th, when the president signed it before the House. And David Muir began. The first story was on Mother Nature, not the Texas floods, but the ones that, caused all the flight cancellations. Second story, World News Tonight. I was on the road watching it from a hotel room. Second story, 6:34 in the evening, World News Tonight, David Muir. The so-called big, beautiful bill passed in the Senate will have a tough fight in the House. It will strip nearly 12 million Americans of all their health care. That was that is a complete political statement, not a fact. And he said it in the second line on ABC World News Tonight. In other words, it could have said the big, beautiful bill is a tax cut, continuing, extending the Trump tax cuts. It's also a tax cut on things like tips. And as far as health care, there's a debate over Americans having to contribute to Medicaid or how many may lose some health care, but not like 12 million Americans are going to lose all their health care.
And it's funny, Jack, because I literally heard those same words. Senator Shaheen yesterday said, I think the number she's using is 48,000 New Hampshire residents will be stripped of their health care. WMUR reported it without question. That is a lie. In fact, nobody is going to be stripped.
You know what it is?
Medicaid. What's going to happen is if you're an able-bodied adult and you don't have dependents that you have to take care of, a sick person or small kids, you're going to be asked, do you still want free health care? Well, then you can show up and do 80 hours a month of some kind of work, volunteer, or education. If you choose not to take it, nobody stripped you of anything.
Right.
The other people, if you are here and you are not eligible,
you know what it is,
Medicaid,
Michael. This is the new abortion ban for Democrats. Any Republican's going to take favors an abortion ban. Any Republican's going to ban abortion. Now they're going to take away all your health care. It's the new abortion ban.
It's so frustrating because it's just not that hard to report. There are new requirements for people who receive Medicaid. If you're able-bodied, you have to work. You have to prove that you're eligible. So, for example, some states let illegal immigrants get on the program, particularly during COVID and in an emergency. Fine. Now they shouldn't be there, so you're going to have to prove you're supposed to get it. You're not stripping anybody of anything, and yet that's the local reporting that you'll find all over across New Hampshire. And by the way, one reason why nobody asked Senator Shaheen or Senator Hassan or Representative Goodlander or Pappas about their claims is they wouldn't allow a New Hampshire Journal reporter to attend their event.
Well, how about this
they
one?
Banned us.
Well, I remember the
we
Joyce.
Can't ask the question.
The WMUR The WMUR political debate with Democrat nominee Joyce Craig, former Manchester mayor, former U.S. Senator Kelly Ayotte, the Republican nominee. First 12 minutes of a 1 hour debate, almost 15 minutes, grilling Ayotte on abortion rights. That was it.
Can I mention one more story that I think some of your listeners will find very important? The Anti-Defamation League is the biggest, defend Israel, defend Jewish people group out there. They fight against anti-Semitism when things were really ugly in the past. They were out on the front lines. The largest teachers union in the country, including the largest in New Hampshire, the NEA, voted the day before yesterday to end their relationship with the ADL. The ADL gives them material for classrooms. They help with the Holocaust education. They help with anti-Semitism education. And a group of activists, a group of anti-Israel activists led a vote, and the delegates at this big NEA gathering voted to end the relationship. They attacked the ADL. They attacked
because
Israel.
they're anti-Semitic. The NEA.
We cannot get the NEA of New Hampshire, which has delegates there. They're out in Portland, Oregon. Did you vote for this? It was a floor vote. You know what I'm saying? It's they asked the delegates.
All right.
They will not answer the question. That story is at NHL, along with quotes from local Jewish leaders, members of the legislature who are Jewish, who are very upset about this.
Well, all right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Speaking of the NEA and politics and public education, politics and national media, it's not the teachers. It's not the rank and file teachers that are getting, some yes, some no. But the teachers have a tough enough job. It's the administrators and the superintendents, the fat cats who make the money, directing the money in public education. They're the ones that are all in on a left side of the political aisle agenda. And I think it's pretty hard to argue that fact. Commentary. We come back, we'll talk about home improvements. Bob Jackman, La Valley Middleton Building Spy. A little bit later on, an update from the Manchester VA next.
This is the Pulse. back to Jack on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, a couple big stories trending. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, very busy almost every day now, and I think it's going to be that kind of a summer. President Trump, we've seen the biggest escalation, really, between Ukraine and Russia, Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, and, of course, U.S. turning back on some of the flow of defense system weapons, but President Trump not happy with Putin. Also, some big trade deals expected to be announced today. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning. It's good to be with you. Yeah, the president expressing his frustration with Vladimir Putin yesterday. They've had a lot of conversations over the course of the past few months. The president describing those conversations good as nice, but they don't lead to any changes in terms of the behavior of Russia. It continues attacking Ukraine on a daily basis with drone strikes, with missile strikes, and the president does not like that, clearly. He has said that will continue to provide weaponry, military weaponry to Ukraine. And also, we heard an indication that he will support that Russia sanctions bill that has strong bipartisan support in the U.S. Senate.
I think clearly, John, and I think one thing about Donald Trump, and I think you saw it a few weeks ago when he was trying to get things to stand down between Israel and Iran, and he said on the South Lawn, he said, they've been fighting each other so long, they don't know what the F they're doing. I mean, he does kind of sometimes come out and just speaks what he's thinking. And I think when he says Putin, whenever he talks with Vladimir Putin, it's always nice, he's always pleasant, but it's meaningless. I think he's being totally candid.
I think he is being totally candid. The president is not used to that, and I think that, one of the things that is pretty clear is his attitude about Russian President Putin is changing. If you are one of those individuals who's concerned about the president continuing to support Ukraine, I think that you were mollified yesterday by the things that the president said yesterday in terms of his continued support for Ukraine.
And just loving foreign policy, respecting. I think you're going to see, I think what President Trump tried in this new term was to be nice and respectful to Putin. And some people thought in the beginning he was appeasing too much. I think now he's had it. I think Putin, if he starts feeling the financial hit of some sanctions and U.S. escalating military support in Ukraine, that's something that Putin will respond to in terms of maybe backing up. But if you try and be a nice guy to Putin, it obviously doesn't work. Real quickly, John, do we have any word on trade deals with which countries today, or is that still waiting to be announced?
I think that's waiting to be announced. I have not heard anything about any trade deals being announced. But as you know, on Monday, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent indicated that on Monday, he said, within 48 hours, you're going to see some trade deals being announced by the administration. So we'll see what comes out of President Trump today. He's meeting with African leaders for lunch today, and perhaps that's when we'll learn about any potential trade deals that the U.S. Will be announcing.
And finally, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Thank you, John. A real whopper, I think, verifying what I kind of sensed at the time, and we kind of all knew, but sort of putting the pieces together, the so-called Russian collusion hoax, allegedly being funded by Hillary Clinton presidential campaign, tying in Justice Department, CIA, FBI, and they're going to begin a criminal probe. That's not a small story, is it?
It's not a small story, and I think that, the president clearly had a nerve touched yesterday when he was asked a question about about Epstein. And, look, I think that is a concern for some people out there, not everybody, but some people, in terms of promises that were made by the Attorney General, releasing certain files, the trove of files, the truckload of files that she described them that she has. We haven't seen that. And I think that's just frustrating in terms of, promises made, and you want to see promises kept as well.
Thank you, John Decker.
Thank you.
All right, patience. Thank you, Bob Jackman, Laval, Middleton Building Supply. Home improvement time. No better time than the summer months, believe it or not, to get things set and buttoned up. People are busy. I'm still hearing at your centers around, Bob, including Hampton, our listening region, right up into the Lakes region, and, of course, some of the other kitchen and bath places. People are busy doing work on the home. Good morning, Bob.
Well, good morning to you, too. And kind of a tough act to follow with keeping everybody up on the national stuff. But I got to tell you, we're seeing a lot of people that will listen to the news, understand the news, and say, okay, I got to do something around the house, but I don't have any time. And it's the summer month. They want to celebrate the summer. So we thought we'd take a page out of Rachel Ray's book. She does 30-minute meals.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, what can you do in a half an hour or an hour around your house to make things better and make you feel like you have constant improvement, which is what we all want. We want, today to be better than yesterday. And what are the things you can do? Something simple like putting solar lights leading up to the entrance to your home. And when I was talking with another lady, she was saying, well, we like to use motion lights there. And I said, okay, that makes sense, except for how about the entrance to that walkway?
Mm-hmm.
If you have to be there to turn the light on, yeah, you probably defeated the purpose because you want to show somebody how to get to the front door.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Yep. I see that. No pun intended.
Motion lights are great. In fact, we installed 2 battery-powered motion lights outside the front of our house because my wife loves bird feeders.
Mm-hmm.
And those at times become bear feeders.
Oh, yeah.
Raccoon feeders. Well, now when the bears or the raccoons or even the deer walk by the
lights pop on. Yeah.
Yep, light comes on. And you know what it does to the animals? Absolutely nothing.
Yep. Yep. Well, it's interesting if you talk to law enforcement, especially if you have a home that's kind of on a winding road or the end of a cul-de-sac, not to think like the bad guys, but police will tell you they like the less obstacles, the better. Anyone who's going to break into your home, the less obstacles, the better. So it's not just for safety. When you pull in, a garage light will come on if you're getting out of your vehicle at night. But the police will tell you that, the bad guys, they like less obstacles. So obviously a dog that barks is a great thing for you, a bad thing for the bad guys. Lights that come on and light up your property, good thing for you, bad thing for the bad guys. Any kind of alarm, all those things are smart to do and very affordable in technology now. You can even get these, kind of solar generated automatic lights.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. You want to be alerted to somebody on your property. If it's a guest, you're lighting the way for them. If it's an unwanted guest, then you're saying, okay, we see you. And you're right. And that is one of very simple things that you can do around your home that you will see that improvement and feel that improvement all the time. One of the other things that we get people complaining about this time of year is sweating pipes in their basement.
Mm-hmm. Especially with this hot humidity we just had. Yeah.
Exactly. And we tell people that, number one, you insulate all the pipes in your basement, hot and cold. And people will say, why do you insulate a cold pipe? Because that's probably the one that's sweating. So pipe insulation, they show you how to cut it. If you read the directions, again, the ladies will understand, the guys won't have an idea of what I'm talking about, because we use a Stanley knife to cut that. Mm-hmm. And that also cuts the human body very easily. So we call the Stanley knife the emergency room's best friend. But the pipe insulation people will tell you to use scissors, and it works great. And you got to remember that that's a linear problem. Just like air infiltration, if you can cover 95% of the pipe, you're going to stop 95% of the sweating. Now, the scientists among us will say that's not exactly right. No, it isn't, but it's close enough. And it's a simple thing to do, and it's also something that I believe in personally, is get your kids involved in home maintenance, and they will take care of their rooms. They will clean the rooms better. You'll get a better performance out of the kids. Yep. And you're putting an ethic in those children that says, okay, I'm going to take care of what I have.
Oh, what a novel concept. Hey, Bob, before I let you go, you're on the front line, your centers, your locations, your staff, your team members. You mentioned home improvements, but overall, are you sensing that our really strong home market is continuing and sustaining? People are spending money in their homes, whether they're staying in their home or fixing it up to sell. Are things still robust? Are you seeing any slowdown at all in the big items?
We're not really seeing it. And you just kind of hit the situation perfectly, because if you're looking to sell your house, you fix it up. And I always say, why do we do that? Why don't we fix our house up so that we can live in it? Well, we're seeing that right now. People are saying, you know what, I'm going to be here for a while. Yes, I can sell my house for a lot more money than I paid for it, but I can't go anywhere without spending all my money. So let's stay where we are, and they'll put money into their homes. So yes, the answer to your question is people are definitely looking at improving their homes all day, every day.
Bob Jackman, Lavelle Middleton Building Supply, still looking for team members for the fall or summer?
We are always looking for team members. And of course, the summer, everybody beefs up. You need extra drivers. You need extra staff in the store. You need people to process material. But with the growth rate that we've had and adding locations, and I got to throw this in here, with people retiring and timing out, there's all kinds of openings and all kinds of possibilities.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of a change, contractors who are tired of beating up their bodies and dealing with the weather, you come and see us.
Well, Bob, another segment we can talk about this, but I have friends older than myself or me, and they've retired, and it's just retirement's overrated. It's good to stay engaged. Work is virtuous. It makes you upbeat, and you don't have to be a healthcare expert to know that if you're engaging your brain, if you have some socialization, a reason to get out of the house, a reason to get up on a Monday morning and go work and get paid, you're probably going to be healthier and happier. But what do I know? Thank you, Bob.
You're 100% right, Jack, and let's leave it there. Have a great week.
All right. Yeah, the whole retirement model. I talked yesterday in some healthcare commentary about how we've just neglected mental health, anxiety, stress, depression like there's no issue. Then we created 20 years of addiction with opioids. They told us we're not addictive. I wouldn't give it into the COVID crap and vaccines for kids. But I'll tell you one thing, the whole retirement model is completely overrated. And we went through this model for many years. Work, retire, and then what? What do you do? What do you do? Oh, why am I getting depressed? Why am I getting sitting on the sofa? Well, work is not a bad thing. Warren Buffett was a good example, even though he's Warren Buffett up until his mid-90s, putting a suit and tie on every day and working. All right, hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. We're back in a few.
News, landscape and snow management firm, proudly serving commercial properties from Greater Manchester to Greater Boston. Visit them online at outdoorpride.com. Now, back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back. We are back on this Wednesday, finally get a break in the heat, and delighted to be joined by the medical director, chief of staff, Dr. Zolak, Bob Zolak, Manchester VA. Doctor, real pleasure to have you on again. I hope you've been well.
Hi, Jack. Welcome, and I have been well. I'm glad everyone got through the pleasant 4th of July weekend. And I want to add just a quick comment about your previous segment and working and not retiring immediately. I am a huge fan of continuing to work if one is able, keeps your mind nimble, keeps your body nimble. I think it's a fabulous thing. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I really just look at it really is to me. I look at mental health. I look at physical health. I just look at the sense of mission, purpose, and the biggest thing that we just, and I can't blame some of the people that fall into this, doctor, including veterans who are so engaged. They have a sense of team. They have a sense of purpose. And then all of a sudden they retire, and it's just this idea that it's a panacea that you're going to be happy and do all these things. I got to tell you, I like to catch stripers, I like to fish, I like to play golf, but I couldn't do that every day. I like to recreate after I've worked hard and earned it. And I just think when you get older, in your 60s and 70s and 80s, keep working. All the stuff I have in my show, doctor, people like you, cognitive, mental health decline, a lot of it can be because you're not using your brain.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And certainly Alzheimer's is a real thing, and we feel horrible about people who have mental decline. But for those of us whose brains still work really well, I think continuing some employment, maybe not necessarily full-time employment, but part-time employment, do something, get out there, keep thinking, keep moving. And if you earn a little bit of a wage simultaneously, what could be better?
Yep. All right. Tell us some updates on your side of things with the VA for our veterans.
All right. Very good. Thank you. So I wanted to go through some of the services that we have, and I'm not sure everyone knows we have this, because when we get requests for care in the community, we certainly are totally willing to send patients to the community if they want to go to community care. But we need to make sure people know that we have specialties here at the Manchester VA, and really, really good specialties. So in addition to the primary care and the mental health, which we pride ourselves over, the VA has one of the best systems for combining and collaboration between primary care and mental health. Mm-hmm. We have an excellent cardiology section. We have excellent oncology for people with tumors or concerned about having tumors. We've got great women's health. I think I mentioned previously we have a spectacular gynecologist on board now full-time at the Manchester VA. We have home-based primary care for those people who are really, really ill and have trouble getting out of the house. We have this one-of-a-kind home-based primary care system where we send doctors and nurse practitioners and nurses and psychologists and pharmacists to the patient's home to help take care of them.
Yeah, tell us about that last piece there. That's pretty cool.
Well, so this is a unique program in the VA system, and it's an entire service line on its own. It's called Home-Based Primary Care. We call it HBPC. And there is a service line manager, a psychologist, Dr. Tony Gross. There's a medical director, Dr. Keith Stahl, who came to us a year and a half ago now, I think, from one of our large local facilities here in Manchester. And along with a team of doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners and PAs, they actually go to the homes of our veterans with the most serious illnesses. Yeah. It's like a house call. It's like the 1950s house call, where they go and they bring the medicines to you. They help you with your medicines. If you need physical therapy, they set that up. If you need nutrition, they set that up. It's comprehensive care in the home.
So, Dr. Zolak, you're talking about on the women's health side, the cardiology, all mental health, coordinating with primary care, and then at home visits. I think the biggest thing is we need to just encourage not just the veteran, but the person around the veteran, the spouse, the partner, the friend, the kids, the nieces, the nephews, to realize that the VA is offering all this now. Realize that this is available. Go enroll if you haven't been there in a couple of years. Try it. If you haven't been to the VA recently, you haven't been to the VA. Do you agree with that?
Oh, totally. We try to refresh ourselves all the time. We try to be introspective. If there are areas where we don't think we're doing as well as we could, we focus on them and try to bootstrap up and improve. Yeah. We have the patient representatives and the patient advocates who always bring us issues as veterans come in and talk to us.
Good stuff, Doctor. Do people want to come by for a visit to learn about all this, meet with someone, call, just make an appointment or swing by?
Oh, you bet. We have eligibility right on the first floor of the main hospital, and that's a great place to start.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I really do appreciate it. It's awesome stuff, and you've been a great energizer for us in a good way. Thank you, Doctor.
Appreciate it, Jack. Take care.
And please, if you're a veteran, there's so much that you earned. It's not about entitlement. Oh, the entitlement debate, it can drive me nuts sometimes because you know what? There's only less than 1% serve 340 million very entitled Americans, less than 1%. And they earned it. It's a whole different thing. The words may begin with E, but there's a huge 100-mile difference between entitlement and earned, and less than 1% earned it. And then they don't take advantage of it because they many times feel someone else needs it more. I'm okay. I don't need a handout. It's not a handout. You earn it. It's a hand up. It is a hand up. So check out the VA. Check out the nonprofit. Speaking of that, Phil Taub, Swim with a Mission, one of the great leading veteran advocate groups or veteran service groups here in the state, working with great groups like Veterans Count, part of Easter Seals. But Swim with a Mission, the SEALs are coming in to New Hampshire. Phil's on deck in a moment or two to give us a live update on the schedule, really kicking off this Friday. That's right. I think per capita, New Hampshire, relatively small state, we get more Navy SEALs each year visiting, almost like family members now, to the live free or die state per capita. 30, 40 SEALs coming in is a big number. And there's some of the best, of course, the best among us. So that's kicking off, and Phil's going to join us. Then we're going to hear from our friends at New Hampshire Technical Institute, bringing back the trades. They're doing it right. And our poll question up on X, do you think the community colleges should get more funding from the state? I think they do. That's where the growth is in higher education. That's where the growth is. By the way, YouTube channel each morning, the first hour, the Pulse of an H on YouTube. You can watch as well. We're back in a moment.